All right, let's talk about something huge, something people have wrestled with for thousands of years. What happens when perfect justice goes head-to-head with absolute mercy? We're going to dig into some ancient texts that tackle this exact problem. So, to get started, I want you to imagine something pretty wild. Forget about human courtrooms for a second. What if a god was put on trial? I mean, actually put on the stand, accused of totally failing to do their job.
See, back in the ancient world, there was this really powerful idea of what a god should be. They were supposed to be the ultimate judge, right? The one who looks out for the most vulnerable people in society. You know, the widows, the orphans, anyone who got left behind.
But here's the thing. That was the ideal. The reality on the ground, totally different. The prophets and thinkers of the time looked around and saw that earthly kings weren't just failing to bring justice. A lot of the time, they were the ones causing the injustice. So you can imagine, this created a real hunger for some kind of higher court, a place that couldn't be corrupted. Okay, but this is where the story gets really interesting. Some of these ancient thinkers took it a step further. They started to wonder, what if this divine court wasn't just for humans? What if its jurisdiction extended all the way up to the gods themselves? And believe it or not, we actually see this play out. This quote is from Psalm 82, and it's basically a scene from a heavenly courtroom drama. The text says, Elohim takes his stand. Now, Elohim is a tricky word. It can mean God or gods. But in this incredible scene, it's Yahweh who steps up, ready to act as either the prosecutor or maybe even the judge over all the other gods.
And wow, the charges he brings are absolutely devastating. He basically accuses the entire divine council of being completely corrupt. He says, you judge unjustly. You play favorites with the wicked. You've totally failed the poor and the needy. Their failure isn't just a small mistake. He says it's so catastrophic that the very foundations of the earth are shaking because of it.
So what's the verdict? Guilty. And the sentence? Oh, the sentence is just mind-blowing. For failing to be proper gods, they get stripped of their godhood, they're sentenced to become mortal and die, just like the very humans they were supposed to be protecting.
Okay, so what in the world is going on here? Well, scholars have a couple of main ways of looking at this divine drama. In scenario A, you can think of Yahweh as a junior partner in the law firm of the gods. He takes the senior partners to court, wins the case, and gets a massive promotion. In scenario B, he's already the CEO, the supreme judge, and he's just cleaning house, firing his corrupt middle managers.
But here's the bottom line. It doesn't really matter which way you slice it. The takeaway from this story is crystal clear. Yahweh's authority is absolute. It's not just for humanity. It's for everyone and everything, even the other gods in the heavens. So we've established that this judge has total, ultimate power. But that brings up a huge question, right? What kind of judge is he? Is it all just strict by-the-book justice? Or is there something more to the story?
And it turns out there is. In another text, Psalm 103, the image just completely flips. We shift away from this powerful king on a throne to something so much more personal and intimate, a father. And for this fatherly judge, the defining characteristic isn't power, it's compassion.
And this isn't just some random feeling. It comes from a deep, fundamental understanding of what it means to be human. As our creator, this judge gets it. He knows our flaws, our weaknesses. He remembers, as the text says, that we are but dust. He knows we're fragile.
So, just how big is this mercy? Well, the metaphor they use is just cosmic. It says he removes our wrongdoings as far as the east is from the west. Think about that. That's not just a reduced sentence. That's taking the crime off the books completely, separating it from us by an infinite, unimaginable distance.
Now, all of that sounds amazing, right? Who wouldn't want that kind of mercy? But, and this is a huge but, it forces us to ask a really tough question. What happens when that kind of limitless mercy is shown to someone who has done truly terrible things? Is there a point where compassion for the person who did the crime becomes a deep injustice to their victim?
And that very question brings us to one of the most famous and maybe most misunderstood stories of all time, the book of Jonah. And I promise you, this is about way more than just a big fish. I mean, we all know the story, or at least we think we do. There's Jonah, the prophet, who doesn't want to do his job. There's a big storm, he gets thrown overboard, swallowed by a giant fish, and then a whole city says they're sorry. It's a classic.
But what if I told you that's not what the story is about at all?
That it's not some cute adventure story. It's the heavyweight philosophical debate about justice. And the case study at the heart of it? A city full of what we would call war criminals.
See, to get this story, you have to get Nineveh. This was the capital of the Assyrian Empire, and they had a reputation for being absolutely brutal. We're not just talking wicked in a general sense. We're talking about systematic, state-sponsored atrocities. And get this isn't just what their enemies said about them. The Assyrians themselves carved records bragging about things like flaying people alive, beheadings, and impaling their enemy.
So when you know that, Jonah's anger starts to make a lot more sense, doesn't it? He's not just being grumpy or prejudiced, he's actually making a serious legal argument. He's saying, wait a minute, for people who've done this level of evil, how can you just offer mercy? What about their victims? He's arguing for justice, retributive justice.
And this is what the whole story has been building to. It's the final, incredible confrontation. On one side, you have Jonah demanding justice, and on the other, you have God claiming the absolute right to show mercy to whomever he chooses.
So how does God respond to Jonah's rage? He doesn't give him a lecture. He doesn't lay down the law. He just asks a simple question, a question that basically hangs in the air and challenges not just Jonah, but every single person who reads this story.
And then, the book ends. That's it. We never get Jonah's answer. The story just stops cold. And that silence? That's the whole point. The author wants us to be stuck with the question. They leave it hanging so that we have to be the ones to wrestle with it.
So in the end, we're left right back where we started, with this huge, timeless dilemma, a question that's just as urgent today as it was back then. So I'll leave you with this. When does mercy become an injustice? When does our compassion for one person cause unbearable pain for another? That's the question we're all left to answer.